I'm Andrea, a passionate DEI advocate and consultant on a mission. Join me in each episode as we celebrate diversity, ignite conversations, and craft workplaces and educational institutions where everyone thrives. This podcast is my commitment to making a meaningful impact on the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So are you ready? Let's get Diversifused. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get Diversifused. I'm your host, Andrea Horton-Marichli, founder of Diversifused DEI Consulting and a passionate DEI advocate and ally. This episode is all about the importance of marketing inclusivity and crafting DEI-friendly marketing strategies. My guest today is Tori Autumn. She's an email strategist and copywriter committed to helping coaches and course creators grow impactful businesses through sharing their heartfelt messaging. She has worked with women entrepreneurs to launch, create, and sell services via emails, website copy, and sales pages, some resulting in $100,000 and close to $1 million launches. That's very impressive, just to name a few. Tori has combined her 9+ years in journalism, PR and media, persuasive writing, and self-love coaching into writing copy that gets your audience to fall in love with your services. You can grab her free promo and nurture templates for coaches and course creators at heytoriautumn.com//gift. I will be putting that website in the summary of our podcast for today, so you don't have to go back and re-listen to the beginning of the podcast numerous times to get the website. She has been a repeated speaker in business masterminds, memberships, the Gold Digger podcast, which I love, and on the Copywriter Club podcast, which is the world's #1 podcast for copywriters. Tori is committed to making integrity, confidence, and equality accessible to all women everywhere. So welcome to Diversifuse. Get Diversifused, Tori. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in business for 5 years now, and I started off as a self-love coach. And in the process, I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I started
Mm-hmm.
having self-love events in person in D.C., where I met with women to talk about creating healthy relationships, feeling more love within themselves, creating healthier friendships. And then it kind of turned into a mixer at the end where people would share their passions or their businesses. But this was in 2019, so this was right before the pandemic started, and my business quickly shifted into being online and away from people. And I also started to feel like it was a little bit harder to meet people to talk about self-love or even open up those conversations, but there were plenty different conversations going on at that time. And one of the things that were a constant theme there was a constant theme of the self-love events were people talking about their businesses. So I started just getting more of an affinity to be around people who are starting businesses or in the process of businesses, like learning about business and things like that. And so I started still doing self love coaching, but I also started dipping my feet into copywriting and learning about marketing. So fast forward, 2021, I started doing copywriting and self love coaching, which got too confusing for my own messaging. So I stopped doing self love coaching, but ever since then, I've been doing conversion copywriting for major brands, small business owners, and nonprofits.
That's awesome. Self-love is so important because my previous guest on Get Diversifused, we were talking about self-leadership and all, and which has a lot to do with self-love. Like you cannot, and you have to start internally to make things before things can happen externally. And so if you don't love yourself, it's harder for people to love you because you prevent it. You self-doubt and you put those barriers up because you feel you're not worthy. And so I love that you do the self-love coaching. That's awesome. And so How did your experience in journalism, PR media, persuasive writing oops, sorry, I banged my microphone there. Persuasive writing and self-love coaching shape your approach to email strategy, copywriting, and marketing in a DEI
Yeah.
lens?
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah. So I actually had gone to school for broadcast journalism. So at one point, I wanted to be an on-camera reporter,
Oh,
and then
cool.
I went to school, and I was just like, I am too shy, introverted to be on camera. So I eventually got into TV and being on the production assistant side, so just assistant producers in the background with news journalism in DC. And so with that, I really enjoy the question asking, the interviewing, the investigation, all of the journalistic aspects. I kind of combine that as well as also meeting so many business owners who have different
Mhm,
backgrounds in communications. I started learning PR, I started reading a bunch of books for PR because I first wanted it for myself. And I also did not see a lot of women of color or people who
mhm,
look like me in the news doing business,
mhm,
or I it always felt like it was a gate kept secret to get into podcasts or getting to the media. So I started learning it for myself first, and then I started testing it out with my clients as a beta service. Like, hey, if I write you a few pitches for podcasts or this in-person summit that's coming up that you were talking about, let's see how it turns out. And I started getting better with understanding what gets people to open, but also better with understanding the roadblocks, the mental roadblocks that people of color
yes.
are facing when it comes to putting themselves out there and being visible online. So my copywriting experience combined with PR and journalism and even self-love coaching started shaping itself into figuring out how to get people to feel more comfortable being visible online who
Mhm,
are people of color, and also opening that conversation for people who are not people of color to feel comfortable with starting those conversations, opening up their platforms to minorities, and also being able to shed the lights on both businesses and just feel welcoming and inclusive overall. So the way that I go about that is
mhm.
I identify different roadblocks that people may be having.
Okay.
So for example, I have worked with two clients who did want to become more DEI friendly, but they didn't know how to open the space for people. So I found that they were doing a lot of head work of like coming up with solutions, but they still, the solutions did not involve people of color. So I said, how about you just
Mm,
show more transparency online and even talk about your expectations? Like you could talk about my goal is to talk to more, whether it's people of color, whether it's the Hispanic community, whether it's black people, whoever, talk about your goals online and talk about your reason why. Because I noticed that in 2020, when the world did shut down, there was
yeah.
also the Black Lives Matter movement. There were people who were really angry about what was happening with George Floyd, but people
Mhm,
also, it became like this, you know, uh, online online just like using people of color as like the golden token where they would just have them on and not necessarily know
yeah.
why they were doing it. So part of what I do is helping them write outreach messages to people and let them know like, hey, I just genuinely want to be able to shed light on your business and relate to
Mhm,
you and to be able to understand you in a friendly and a safe environment for you. Would you be open to this? Like just having conversations, writing messages that just let people know, I just this is my intentions up front, and I would love to meet with you. And then also on the other
nice.
end of that is saying, um, is being able to feel comfortable with selling their services, because a lot of people
Mhm,
who are not used to being visible for whatever reasons, trauma or just messages that is not safe, they also leave a lot of money on the table because they don't talk about their actual services. They don't talk about how much the price is.
mhm,
They try to do internally sizing someone up like, oh, they may not afford this or they may not want
yeah.
me to speak about this. So I help them with talking points with that as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the 2020 pandemic, COVID 19, really. changed the world forever, the way we do things. And to your point, where everything was all pretty much all online or on television, and so messaging became even more important because people were and still are to a certain extent. They get most people get their news and information on social media, um, and and they often don't check the facts. So it's good that you're helping people, business owners and all, work with their messaging. So to in a DEI lens, because through a DEI lens, because um, it has the potential to reach more audiences that way, and hopefully get spread, a lot of likes and shares and everything. So and that messaging could have more opportunity to reach the masses, as opposed to some of the non non-welcoming type of messaging on social media. Um, so when it comes to, you already talked a little bit about marketing to a diverse audience. And you spoke about some of the challenges that businesses face when marketing diverse audiences online, but can you talk about how businesses can tailor their marketing strategies to effectively reach and resonate with individuals from diverse backgrounds and cultures? You don't have to lay everything out and to where people don't reach out to you for your services, but can you give some of the highlights?
Yeah, I would first start with ask people who you would like to target what would be helpful in understanding when it comes to being more inclusive.
Mhm,
Again, I think people feel like this is a solution they need to solve on their own so they won't seem insensitive or even um, uneducated to it. But I think that part of being more inclusive is understanding like I'm starting from square one. I want to and I don't know much and the goal is to be more informed but to also be inclusive and find connections and find things that the driving forces of why we do buy and why we do want to sell and all those things in
mhm,
between. So um I would start with talking to more people from diverse backgrounds about your offer. You can also ask them for feedback. I don't recommend doing like giving away your service for free, but I think it might be great if you are starting a new service and you do not have any people of color to do a beta round of a program that specifically is like probably a subset of a larger program or service that you
mhm,
offer. Um, you can also get your another way to get to be more become more DEI friendly is evaluate the current offers that you have and get them evaluated by people from diverse backgrounds and let them use it from their DEI lens to see if it was created without any biasness. So this could be them looking into the images you're using, even the language that you're using, even the messaging in it and it's not necessarily to pick it apart and
mhm.
criticize it from a lens of you did this wrong, this is racist, but just to have an open discussion.
Yeah,
um you can also run a workshop encouraging people of diverse backgrounds to attend and
that's true.
and again be obvious with your intentions. I was reading a book about attracting healthy relationships when I was doing self-love coaching. But the one tip that I got from that is so it stuck with me forever and I think
Mhm,
about it all the time when it comes to being more inclusive in marketing is that a lot of reasons why relationships or friendships do not work out is
mhm.
because there are unspoken expectations like this person is supposed to show up for me in this way, this person is supposed
Yeah.
to always have my back when it comes to arguing with my sister, but they're not actually being they're not actually saying it out loud, you're just supposed to get it. And I think
Mhm.
that you're just supposed to get it kind of bleeds into our businesses and marketing. Like people are just supposed to know
Yeah,
I'm selling to them. They're just supposed to
yeah.
know that even though I didn't put it in their face, they're just supposed to know where to find my website. But I think that
Mhm.
those unspoken expectations directly not only impact our audience but impact ourselves. And so I
Yeah.
think that just being more intentional, it's always going to work out with you. And I also have and a DEI language inclusive document if you would
Oh,
like to share. Um,
yeah, yeah. Please send it
that's
to me, and I'll upload a link in
okay,
the
yeah,
summary. So yeah,
absolutely.
cool, awesome thing. That would be wonderful.
Mhm.
Um, back to what some of the things you were saying just now. It's about like the friendships and the customers and stuff like you're just supposed to get it. It's like that's one thing that it's human nature. We assume. And we assume the others know, or we assume the worst if somebody does an action that oh they're out to get us, and it could just be a lack of knowledge and of which most of the time it is awareness, a lack of awareness and all, and those are educating moments. All in teams I've led in the past, and even in my current DEI consulting, communication is what, to me anyway, is what all relationships are based on. If you don't have the communication, um, things are going to start to fall apart. Maybe not very quickly, sometimes quickly, but slowly they're going to start to fall apart or not go the way you intended. And that's why, to me, transparency to a point, but healthy, open communication is a must in all relationships, whether it's businesses to customers, family to family, friends to friends, and the community at large, really, and especially in marketing. Like you can't assume that everybody from one is going to understand what you mean when you're marketing something, because people are from all walks of life, all cultures. Our country, the United States, and a lot of other countries now, they're a melting pot of people from all over the world, and we cannot assume that things are going to translate over correctly, or they're going to understand a certain idiom or expression or a reference to something that may be common knowledge in that culture that that person who is putting that marketing or communication out is part of. So it's very important if you want to be successful in business, to really work on your messaging, and as you said, the words and um, word choice and all, and the images too, um, because when you do think through a DEI lens, with your words and images, the chances of you reaching more people, you know, increase. I don't know, like twofold or threefold. I'm not sure how many, but it increases. And so I think the work you're doing is very important. And I can't wait to get that document so I can share it with the listeners. So talking about DEI friendly language and messaging. So what are some of the best practices for crafting DEI friendly messaging that aligns with brand values and fosters inclusivity that you
Mhm.
can think of?
Yeah, so just I want to start with what I think inclusivity means, and
Sure.
um it's embracing a range of perspectives because what we sell has a direct and indirect impact on others. And from so when it comes to being inclusive, it's also extremely impactful, not just to your business, but to s- your brand, your customers, even the relationships you
Mhm.
have with people. And so some of it could be when you are looking to get started with crafting and messaging. um, you can think about the potential cultural factors that your services have. You can think
Yes.
about help when it comes to any type of equitable opportunity. So you, for example, you may not be in a position to offer scholarships, or even like partial scholarships in your business to people who you want to be more inclusive toward. But you may have them be a speaker. You may have them come in and with a unbiased, or come in and look at your services with a different lens. You may have them you may be able to elevate something that they're doing in their community. There's always some way that we can help someone. And another thing that I see, and this is also included in the document, is to be people first minded. So that means writing language that makes people feel seen as a human being who matters. Like, for example, instead of referring to someone as a Hispanic
Mhm.
or, he's black, you can say a Hispanic person or um, an African American person or a black, like just
Mhm.
actually putting the emphasis that they're people, they're humans just like us.
Mhm.
Um, and also thinking about the different ways that ultimately people will buy our products because to some degree they trust us. And
Yes.
so, one way that you can help build real authentic trust with current and potential customers is letting them know, like not over promising in your services. So this can
Mhm.
say, well, I see, like, let's say that you are a weight loss coach, and you can say, will you lose 20 pounds in the first month? You can talk about the research to back it up.
Mhm.
People definitely trust numbers when they see that you have
Yes.
done some type of research and studies on that. You could talk about the likelihood, but let them know that it requires them to do their part. Let them know
Yes.
that this is not a quick solve to being a size zero forever. This is something that some of my clients who have followed these steps, or some of my clients who have altered it to fit for their life, works. And that's
Mhm.
another thing about being inclusive is when we see messaging and we say, wow, this person sold one email, or this person bought this email course and only wrote one email and made $10,000. Is that going to work for my bakery business? Being upfront that all
Mhm.
the testimonials that you have could be case by case or business by business, or
Yeah.
these are the different variations that happen. And there's different ways that you can do that without having to say a mouthful, but you can write, even if it's like just quick bullet points on a sales page. This can, or
Mhm.
just even any transparency on the process that you work with that person, or um any, especially when it comes to business stuff, being mindful of the industry and saying that
Yes.
in your sales pages or in your emails. Another way that you can also approach being more DEI friendly in marketing is finding people that you can use as case studies, or you can utilize as case studies to also uplift their business. That way it's a win-win thing. You can also
Mhm.
see with any areas of judgment that you may have overmissed, and that you can also go along the journey with them to a degree. And I think that I'm studying business at George Washington University,
Ooh,
and one
great
thing that
university.
I'm really excited about it. And one thing that I've learned about what makes a leader powerful is being able to be be a leader, but also be open to listening to their audience, or even being
Mhm.
a part of the journey with the audience. And so I'm
Yes.
really embracing that. And I'm even going through my own in terms of my small business owners and coaches and course creators audience. I'm like, when am I not seeing that's a part of their journey, and how can I
Mhm.
find ways to be more a part of it so that I can understand them more, and I can be truthful in my messaging without being too salesy or even insensitive.
Yeah, I like that. So back to sort of like towards the beginning of what you were talking about with what can businesses do to help different populations. When you said that with the scholarships and all, it that kind of put a reminder, or made me remind me of some of my previous work with immigrants and refugees, who many of whom are highly educated and in their countries and all, and when they come here, as whether it was a green card lottery or as an immigrant or even a refugee, they have all these barriers to get their foot in the door of the industry that they have education that they were educated in and have experience in. Now, granted, in some professions, it's there's things that they have to do, like go back to school, like if it's the doctor or a dentist or a vet, depending on the state that they live in, or and the certification requirements. But one thing I would love more companies to do is offer internships for individuals who are not associated, who are not a university student. Because a lot of internships, as you know, are you have to be a university student to even apply. Um, because if they take that requirement off, they'll get more applicants, and it'll allow those more individuals who are to get their foot in the door, who may have already be experienced and all, and just need to get US based experience. So, but yeah, so that when you mentioned that, I was like, boom, I gotta mention this because it's just so sad to see engineers and medical professionals and teachers and all when they come over cleaning toilets. So it's housekeeping in hotels, or um, doing laundry type jobs, and which are great professions. I'm not discounting those professions; they're sorely needed. But some individuals, that may not be what they are experienced in. There's a lot of knowledge gap, or knowledge wasted and experience wasted. Um, so, but yeah, thank you so much for that. I loved all those strategies that and tips that that you mentioned. Um, so let's go down to marketing tools for diversity and inclusion. Are there any specific marketing tools or platforms that you recommend for businesses looking to attract and connect with diverse audiences?
So there, won't say I have any actual platforms in mind or tools, but
Hmm.
there are some strategies that I recommend.
Okay.
So a couple of times a year, I recommend that a person who wants to be more DEI focused in their business when it comes to their marketing and customers host workshops and just listening panels for people
Hmm.
who are in their community. And this can be like a simple social media post or email that's saying, "Hey, I want your advice." Like starting off and letting them know like they are the expert in this area when it comes to their diverse backgrounds and experiences. And I want to open up a space to talk about whatever niche or industry you're in. Um, and I've helped some of my clients facilitate that, and it opens it to conversations about marketing, but it also opens conversations about the niche areas, whether it's the medical field or education. Almost every background has um, an area where there's a population who feels excluded, or they feel like they're outside of the fence watching everyone
Hmm.
else benefit from it. And
Yeah.
I think that those conversations also can lead to some solutions. So it could be that you are moderating this workshop, or you are asking questions that you are curious about understanding, and then also what type of services that you would like to see, and what type of information that you would also like to um, for them to see more publicized that's not really known.
Yeah.
Like for example, where I live in Washington D.C., in the southeast part of DC, there is a high maternal mortality rate. And so a lot of times when black women specifically, so a
Okay.
lot of times when people see advertisements that's for maternal health care or pregnancies, there's like this other side to it where there's a high, like in Southeast DC, it's probably one of the highest in the nation that I read
Wow.
about on I think it was either Planned Parenthood or another website that I read about. And so, but that's a discussion that if I didn't mention that, how many people would know that other than
Yeah, I
people who
didn't
look
know
like
that.
me
Yeah.
who live in my area.
Yeah.
So I think that, and it's also one of those things like how many platforms or how many tools will actually be able to talk about that. And it's like, well, one, if you look at Zoom or you look at Teams as a way as hosting that platform, or even Facebook Live, you would get
Mhm.
so much information about that, and you can tailor your services and research to actually help people in that. Like it's a win-win thing. It's not a person trying to be nosy and like get information to sell more.
Yeah.
It's like it actually benefits everyone in that area because now we know it's an issue with the maternal mortality rate. We can find people who are on that side, whether it's doctors or education
Mhm.
teams or healthcare facilities to help solve this
Yeah.
issue.
That's wow. Yeah, it's I did not know that about South DC. So it's mind-boggling that that's still happening in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Um and oh, wow. Um so as you were talking about some of the best practices, it kind of popped in my head and out of my head because I got really interested in the the mortality situation that was going on. But oh yeah, when you said um, that they have that you recommend doing like a conversations, holding those conversations with diverse audiences, it's very important to have diversity in that audience whether you're talking to and surveying because everybody's different, every story is different. I don't know how many times I've been in an organization where oh you're Latino or you're Muslim or you're from um uh Iraqi or something like that. What do you think about this? And it's like you cannot speak one individual cannot speak for an entire race, an entire ethnic
Mhm.
population, because every person's story is different. Every person's background and experiences are different, and even the language is sometimes different. It's there's all different dialects. Just if you think of the United States, every place you go to has their slang. And there are different accents and stuff across the nation. It's the same for every other country, not just the United States. So it's very important to have that diversity in the audience because you get um, more of an accurate result in the data that you're collecting. Now, it's not going to be 100% accurate because not everybody in the world can be in that audience, but it'll be more accurate, especially if you're targeting certain districts or sections of the city or a country or it's very important to be smart in who you request to be in that audience. So I love that you mentioned the surveying, or it's not called surveying. It's called something else in marketing when it's in person. I think.
Yeah,
Um,
it could be like a town hall or just open floor discussion, any of those. Yeah.
okay, cool. Thank you. So let's go to marketing tools for diversity and inclusion. How can businesses leverage technology to customize their marketing efforts and create inclusive spaces for all potential customers or clients? Or I wouldn't
Mhm.
say for all, but for more diverse customers and clients.
Mhm. Yeah, so as a copywriter and business owner, I'm very aware of AI. And I know
Yes.
that a lot of people are starting to dip their feet into it. They're like, okay, this
Mhm,
is actually easier and a lot easier than I thought. And
mhm,
so um, I'll start with in terms of AI technology. One of its setbacks is that it can sound very much like a robot. But
yeah,
there are ways to even use AI technology um, to talk more human and also to be having a diverse tone to a degree. And some of the ways that you can do that is you can um, you can actually save a subset of your like writing and your tone and your effects and your words and even like the goals of whatever you're writing into AI, and you can kind of teach it, you can manipulate it. I like to use Jasper AI to you when I write copy. And I mainly started using it to understand it a lot more with writing blogs because I was writing. I had a client who taught the DEI-friendly workshops to corporate partners, to big nonprofit organizations, and so we were writing blogs and newsletters to talk about how much have creating a DEI safety environment could increase the retention rate. And so it was my very first time using it. I didn't quite understand it, but some of the things that I started learning when it came to using Jasper was using quotes from actual clients, or using that are approved, of course,
Mhm.
using actual like incorporating stories that people have told you, incorporating even the different foods, and so with doing this, you take it away from it being this robotic thing, but you're actually using it as just an assistant to what you're writing. So I start using AI as let me just tell it to write this blog so I can go lay down and
Mhm.
watch TV. Like, no, I use I use it as a way to kind of finish a partial thought that I have, or I had this story, I have these quotes, I have all the ingredients, but help
Mhm.
me put this cake together. Help me put the puzzle pieces together to actually like flow together, sound synthetically correct, and even offer tips and suggestions that I may not have yet thought about. So I kind of use it more as an assistant, and not as a competitor, because a lot of interviews I do, they're like, aren't you afraid you're going to lose your job as a copywriter because AI is taking over the industry? And I'm like, oh, me and AI are besties. So, but
Yeah.
I think, yeah, but I think that I think instead of looking at it as the way as a way to be more diverse, I think using the using it as a tool to amplify the voices that you already
Mhm.
talk to, because that's the goal of being more DEI, is to
Yeah.
talk to people, start
Yes.
those conversations, and use those quotes, and then you'll start to learn, and you can regenerate it and write different phrases and say, without, and of course it comes to a degree where you don't want to, because the other thing about AI is sometimes if you say, I'm writing this specifically for a certain population, whether it's African Americans or the
Mhm.
Latinos community, it may use idioms and phrases that they would say, and it may not even sound right for you. So you can um feel comfortable, like, people, our minds are wired to focus on emotions and storytelling. You can
Mhm.
feel free to, if you are quoting someone that's from a obvious different background from you, feel free to quote them. Feel free to say these are their words, these are their stories, these are their experiences or moments. It makes your writers seem more authentic, sound more authentic, and people are going to read those quotes because we're wired to read those
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I love AI. I'm actually trying to learn how to use it better also, when it comes to my different writings as well. It is a wonderful tool, but as you said, it's not something that you can just input and walk away. You have to give it the information so it can form what you want, and then even the what it generates, you still got to look it over and tweak it and add things, delete things, and because it's not going to be perfect. It's not the chances of it being 100% what you want, um, aren't 100%. So it's always good to look it over and all. But I had never heard of Jasper AI. I'm gonna check it out. And
Yeah, Jeff.
so is it a free platform, or is there do they have a free platform and then a paid platform like Chat GPT? Chat GPT. There we go.
um, So Jasper does have like a free trial where you can
Mm.
test it out, and that's what I did. I tested it out from two different email addresses because I got greedy. I said, "Wait a minute, let me try this again." I loved it. Now I looked and I pay pay the monthly subscription, and
Nice.
it's about, I think it's 59 a month, but it saves me so much time, and it's also imputed into your emails, your Google Docs. It'll like finish it for you if you
Oh,
ask it to. It'll shorten sentences, make them longer. It's amazing.
nice, 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 nice. And is that platform? And I'm assuming the answer is going to be yes. It's or does it, or is it does it stereotype like some other platforms, or does it depend what you input into it for to prompt?
That's a good question. It's based off what you put it. You can be very specific and very granular of what you want. I have seen this stereotype before. Um, but I also the more that I've understood how to actually use it, I'm able to kind of like avoid it giving me that type of output. But yeah,
Nice.
um,
Right.
yeah,
So it's very important, and I think it's for this is for all AI platforms. It's very important what the user is inputting,
yes.
because as users, as humans, we have implicit bias, um, and
Mm.
uh, and so we got to be careful with the word choices that we put in. So yeah, that's awesome, cool. So let's go to authenticity and integrity in marketing. How can businesses ensure that their marketing efforts are aligned with authenticity and integrity, particularly when it comes to DEI principles?
Mm, that's a good question. So, um, as a I think the first thing to start with being or showing your authenticity and integrity is to um, look at all of the different offers and services that you have and look at the customers and clients and think about ways that you first um, would like to change and not necessarily like the customers itself but things in your business, things in your
Mhm,
services, offers. I think part of one of the reasons why many people want to be more inclusive is that something may feel off or may feel like this is not exactly how they imagine their business being, or they might have just
mhm,
changed in principles and values. So I think
mm,
um looking at where you want to change that because when I think of DEI friendly businesses, I think that we generally think that it means that people will have more maybe all genders and all walks of backgrounds as customers and clients. But it may not be that. It may be that they have speakers. It may be that in the background their consultants are more DEI friendly. It may be that their services. So what does that actually mean for you? I think that that's a step one.
mm,
Um, and also step 2 is again being intentional in your messaging and your writing and letting people know that you specifically want to run workshops and please refer to people who are minorities or people of
mhm,
color or people from diverse backgrounds or Latinos community, like letting people know your intentions. Another one is also I think that people think that leaders are the per it they are the people in the room who know the most, but letting people know that you are expert and skilled in a certain area,
mhm,
but this is an area that you are actively trying to learn more and actively want to help shed a light on other people's lives and or businesses, depending on what it is that your business is about. So like just letting them know that. And then another thing is not over promising, but also there's something in marketing called surprise and delights. So there are ways that you can really feel connected to people. And one of them is it like I said, it's always it within your reach because we're all human. We
mhm,
all have our own responsibilities. If you're able to offer internships, like you have mentioned,
mm,
or scholarships, that is great. But if you are not able to offer that at this time, there is another thing that you can do that can surprise and delight your audience, and that is
mm,
offering time. That is offering one-on-one just talks within your niche industry, or offering some type of PDF guide that can help them save time or money or overwhelm. Those are the three things that in our
Yeah.
services, we want to help people with in some type of capacity. So how can you help your audience when it comes to being more authentic? And it's not even like you want anything in return. This is just me offering this because you've been a part of my community. Let me feel like I'm a part of yours and let me help you in some way.
That's awesome. And yeah, because that will when people feel that you care, that you see them, that you value their input and their experiences, you've gained a customer for life pretty much. It's
Yes.
because that's what people want. They want to be valued. They want to be seen and heard. And you had mentioned something about leaders. Yeah, we often think that leaders do know everything, but they're human. They're people. They don't. People don't know everything. And a good leader is a servant leader, an inclusive leader, and they are humble to a certain extent, and they know that they don't know everything. And so um, uh, that and they seek out education. They speak to their teams. They speak to the communities to gain more knowledge and insights. So it's that's to me is what a good leader is, and because it's important for teams to know that leaders are not perfect. They're not all knowledgeable, and but they need, and it's a two-way street when it comes to respect and learning from each other. So but yeah, it's and I loved all the marketing efforts that you spoke about with creating authenticity and integrity, because having those crucial conversations or important conversations lets people know that you lets people get to know you as a person or a brand, and um, and people can usually tell if you're just checking a box or if you're actually walking the walk, and if you are coming from the heart. We have a lot of people have a sense for that. Not everybody, but a lot of people do, and it's I mean, to me, that's very important in gaining customers and keeping customers, and also keeping attracting talent and keeping talent if you're wanting to expand your hiring strategies also, because hiring also has to do with marketing, how do you market yourself, how do you market your brand, how do you market your job postings, and it's all about the outer image that you want to project to the consumers or the world at large, community at large, and the word choices um, in in everything in all your writing. So, um, last question: what role does transparency, honesty, and genuine connection play in building trust and loyalty with diverse audiences? So you already touched a little bit on that, and so did I. But can you expand a little bit um, about what the role is that they play in building trust and loyalty with diverse audiences?
Yeah. So with transparency, one of the reasons that drive us to want to be transparent is trust. But even deeper within trust is that connection. Is that I may not come from the same background as you. I may not have had the same experience as you, but I am human like you, and that's a start. And I think
Yes.
that with being transparent, I think that and and knowing that you want to just frankly just build connections is such a powerful way to have that framework will help you feel a little at least safer in starting that communication and starting that conversation with people. Another way that transparency can is beneficial for you or just to implement when it comes to being more DEI focused is knowing that again, as I mentioned earlier, our services have a direct and indirect impact on our audience and on people
Yes.
who have used our services and products. So being transparent will let them get a clear picture of what they're spending their money on, but also
Mhm.
who the person is that they're having this interaction with, who the person is that they are um, going to eventually tell someone else about their product or
Yeah.
services. We all know that the number one tool in marketing is word of mouth. We can do
Yes.
paid ads, we can do all
Yep.
those things, but nothing's going to be a review, a testimonial. Oh, try this lotion. It moisturized my skin for 3 days. Like
That's some lotion.
like right. And I think that being transparent and letting people tell the story or even tell their experiences about your services even heightens that trust, but also again back to that connection. Most
Mm,
one of the things that I've found when it comes to storytelling
mhm,
and why storytelling is such an effective tool is that a lot of people we all want to do what we want to do. We don't want to someone nagging us or telling us about advice or telling us why we need to do something constantly. But one of the things that have helped us advance in society is storytelling. Like for example, if you have a child, you don't want them to eat from a certain tree because they're poisonous berries, what's going to
mhm.
be more effective? I told you to stay away from that tree,
Yeah.
or I once read, or I once found a story about a little girl who ate from those poisonous berries, and she had to go to the hospital, and she had a very upset tummy, and it's just such a sad day. Like, however you wanna tell the story, they're gonna be more tied into, "Really? That happened to her?" Just as we are to celebrity gossip, just as we are
Oh,
to
yeah.
the news. Like, we are keyed and wired into listen to stories, and I think the more that you get comfortable in telling stories just from your personal experience, but listening to other people's
Mm.
stories and, including that into your services and your copywriting and your marketing, you will start to become a more transparent business owner, but also strengthening that connection and trust that people are looking for.
I agree, I agree. Um, People just love hearing other people's stories and experiences. It brings that more authenticity to whatever it is that they're talking about um, because they lived it, and to me that's why people who have certain types of um, addictions to I don't know if that's a politically correct term these days, but um, and have overcome them and have um, learned um, to learn their triggers and prevent them from going down that path again. They make the best counselors for individuals um, struggling with the same type of things that they were struggling with in their past. They've been through that down that road. They know the temptations, the challenges, the ups, the downs, the losses,
Yeah.
um, the fears, and they've experienced that. Now, again, everybody's story is different, but it's they can talk best to that experience, to those experiences that that individual may be going through. And so, to me, their stories are very impactful for those individuals, and actually the world at large, because we had just assume as humans that we have a stereotype of individuals who suffer from addiction, whatever it may be, and we just have a stereotype. And so to hear people's stories like, "Oh, you were a doctor, and you were struggling with substance abuse, and you lost your home, you lost your family, you were living on the streets." It's like just to hear their stories, it makes it that much more impactful. But as you had said, stories have been around forever. I mean, the Native Americans and Native tribes across the world. That's how they a lot of them didn't have formal writing, so they pass things down verbally through storytelling, and it so storytelling is very impactful strategy when it comes to marketing, and I agree with you. It does build that transparency and that connection, and it shows us how it has the potential to show us how alike we are, how similar we are. Yeah, we maybe look different on the outside, um, to a certain extent, but we're all human. We're the human race, and the human race comes in all sizes, colors, variations. It's a beautiful, beautiful race, and we just have to open up our eyes and our ears and our hearts. Um, let's talk about some key takeaways. I want to be cognizant of time. I know we're a little over, but let's talk about some key takeaways. So we talked about marketing to a diverse audience. We talked about some strategies for effectively reaching and engaging with diverse audiences online, and we talked about how to tailor marketing approaches that will resonate with various cultural backgrounds, preferences, and perspectives. We talked about DEI-friendly language and messaging. We talked about the importance of using inclusive and respectful language in marketing materials, and some techniques for crafting DEI-friendly messaging that align with an organization's brand values and resonates with their target audience. We talked about marketing tools for diversity and inclusion. We You talked about some AI platforms and that could help attract and connect with diverse audiences depending on what is inputted by the user, and how to leverage this technology to customize marketing efforts and create inclusive spaces for all potential customers or clients. We talked about authenticity and integrity in marketing, and authenticity and integrity in the marketing approach, prioritizing transparency, honesty, and genuine connection with an organization's audience. And how we talked about how aligning marketing efforts with DEI principles can not only attract diverse customers, but also build trust and loyalty over time. And to me, one of the key takeaways is always in all my podcasts, continuing learning and growth, committing to ongoing learning and education in the realm of DEI, both personally and professionally, and exploring opportunities to further integrate DEI principles into marketing strategies and business strategies, fostering a culture of inclusivity and respect. Some possible next steps for listeners are to review and revise marketing materials, take a critical look at your existing marketing materials and identify areas where DEI-friendly language and messaging can be incorporated or improved, explore marketing tools and platforms, research and experiment with different marketing tools and platforms that can help you reach and engage with a diverse audience. So, as you had mentioned, the talking to a huge audience of diverse individuals to gain their input. Attend workshops or webinars. Seek out workshops or webinars focused on DEI in marketing, where you can learn from experts and gain practical insights for your business, or reach out to professionals like Tori Autumn. Engage in community discussions. Join online forums or communities focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion in marketing, where you can share ideas, ask questions, and learn from others in the field. And commit to continuous learning. Make a commitment to ongoing learning and growth in the realm of DEI and marketing, staying informed about emerging trends, best practices, and opportunities for improvement. And best practices includes language used, because that's always evolving. So, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast, Get Diversifused, Tori. How can people get a hold of you if they want to contact you for services or have you speak at an engagement?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This has just been an honor, and I'm just so excited to share this with my audience as well. And you can find me at heytoriautumn.com or Instagram at heytoriautumn and LinkedIn Tori Autumn.
Okay. So I will be putting, if with your permission, a slide at the very end of the podcast episode with your contact information, and I'll also put it in the summary as well, along with a link to the document that you'll send.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. So thank you so much. And really enjoyed the conversation, and you are welcome back anytime. I can talk
Thank
DEI and
you.
um, out the wazoo forever. So, listeners, stay tuned for our next episode. This episode will be launched in a few weeks, but stay tuned for our next episode as well. And comment on our episodes also. Interact with us and let us know your thoughts. Have if you have questions, and we'll respond. So I hope you guys have a great day. Now go out there and make a difference. And as always, for more strategies on building inclusive workplaces and communities, check out Diversifuse. We're here to guide you on your DEI journey. Make sure to visit our website at diversifused.com and follow us on social media for the latest happenings, blog posts, tips, and events.